Hello there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I hope you're having a good day. Something slightly different today. I've gone back in time a little bit to one of the first commanders that came out that's just been re-released in Modern Masters, or whatever it is, Double Masters 2, whatever they're calling it now. New set that came out the other week. It's one of the decks I've been wanting to think about building for a while, and unfortunately the actual legendary creature to buy it on MTGO was a little bit expensive, but with the release of Double Modern Masters 2 or whatever it's called, you all know the one I'm talking about, it's crashed in price quite a lot. So without further ado, here is the Enchanter. One white, blue, black, 1/4 creature. Not the greatest set of stats, flying. However, whenever the Enchanter attacks, you may search your library for an enchantment card with mana value 3 or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This card is ridiculous. It turns up a lot in competitive decks, it turns up all over the place, and it's just a really good search engine that you can get out. Why am I building this? Like I said, it's one of the first cards. When I first started playing Commander many years ago, in paper, one of my friends had this deck built, and basically he ran the table for about 5 months until we all caught up with him and caught up and bought our own decks that were competitive. And ever since then, I've never ever wanted to play the Enchanter. However, now it's back, I figured, well, yeah, let's have a look at it and see what we can do with it. So we'll go through this, and hopefully if you've got any comments, if you think there's anything I've missed out, please tell me below in the YouTube comments, or better still, in the YouTube blurb there's a bit about how you get on my Twitch stream. Come and follow me there and you can tell me in real time when I'm streaming. So here we go. Mana base is fairly standard. We have blue and black lands and white lands that do all sorts of things. Nothing too fancy. Because most of the enchantments we're looking at playing are white, the white's a little bit heavier. And we have put in a Hall of Heliod's Generosity, so if our enchantments do get destroyed for somehow, we can still cycle them on top of our graveyard. One of the things I have done in this deck, which you could put in, and I haven't, you could play Replenish in this deck. I haven't gone down that route. I decided against it, mainly because I'm playing Elixir of Immortality. But it is an enchantment heavy deck, and you could replace one of the cards further down with Replenish if you want to. But anyway, just go back to the lands for a minute. Got everything basically either finds us white, creates white, mostly. We've got more basic plays than we have islands and swamps, and we've got a few things to back it all up in. So as you know, you've got to have an enchantment when Xur attacks at 3 or less. There's a lot of these in here. Just a quick note. Mox Tantalite, Soul Talisman, Soul Ring and Arcane Signet are the ramp spells. Just so you know it's there. It's the usual selection that I play in a lot of my Commander decks. So I decided to look at 1 casting cost enchantments, 2 casting cost enchantments, 3 casting cost enchantments. Obviously I'm looking at auras as well, which is unusual because you want to build up Xur if you can. So we'll go through them bit by bit. So, Ajani's welcome. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, we gain a life. Yeah, maybe not the best card to have in the deck, I agree. We've only got 18 creatures, but there is a reason for it, and I'll come to it. Cleric classes here. We have a lot of the enchantments, a lot of the auras help us gain life, so it's worth having this in, especially we can level up to level 2. We start chucking +1/+1 counters around, makes our creatures that much better. Ethereal Armour. If you don't know what Ethereal Armour does by now, then yeah, you're probably going to learn the hard way if you end up playing me on the stream at some stage when I'm playing Xur. 1 white gives the enchanted creature +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So the 1 white gives it itself +1/+1, and has first strike. You're going to have 2 or 3 enchantments in play probably, so +3/+3, and it just keeps getting bigger. It's great. Glowing Aegeus is so we can tap down. We can attack with go and find this, put it on it, and when it enters the battlefield, we can tap a flying blocker they may have or something with reach that might kill our Xur off. So that's why this is in here. Griff's Boon is so we can recycle enchantments from the graveyard. This enchantment is specifically. We can pay for, return it, and put it attached to a creature, which is fine. Hyena Umbra gives us a bit of protection for Zur. It's probably one of the first enchantments you search up, to be fair, when you first attack with Zur. So you've got that kind of, it's like the shield effect from Streets of New Capenna. Basically, if the enchanted creature would be destroyed, remove the damage and destroy this aura instead. Same idea. A bit like the shield counters. Mother of Runes is in here to give us some protection. Notice you can't give it protection from white. If you've got all your Zur in play, you can't give Zur protection from white, and you've got a load of enchantments on it, all those enchantments will fall off. Just bear that in mind, because I've seen people do it. Path to Exile's here just for a little bit of removal. Spirit Link gives us... doesn't give us lifelink, so this will stack with lifelink. This says whenever enchantment creature deals damage, you gain that much life. So because this does not say lifelink anywhere, if you've got another ability, which we have got in here, that says target creature gains lifelink, you're going to get double the life triggers. Okay, just bear that in mind. Aqueous Form's in here, so it can't be blocked. You can put this on Zur, it makes it really good, and you get to scry the top of your library. Curiosity, it's obviously card draw when you deal damage to an opponent. Curious Obsession does the same thing, but if you haven't attacked, you will sacrifice this. You may lose this one quite easily. Elixir of Immortality is here just to shuffle everything back in if we get everything destroyed or wrathed or what have you. Soul Ring I've mentioned. All That Glitters is probably the second most important enchantment in the deck. Between this and Ethereal Armour, yeah. Notice this counts your artifacts as well, so having a few of your artifacts in play helps. But between this and this, you're going to build a really big Zur very, very quickly. It's going to be very, very hard for your opponents to deal with, especially if you can put Aqueous Form on it, make it unblockable. So this plus this plus this, that's 1, 2, 3. So you're going to be giving Zur +6/+6 and making him unblockable, which means your opponent's taking 7 damage on the first time you attack with all 3 enchantments attacked to it. Don't forget, hitting 21's a magic number, and it's really easy to do with this deck. Griffin Erie's in here to give us a few more creatures to come and play. We will be gaining a fair amount of life, and you might as well play this. It only costs 2 mana to cast, or you can search out a Reserve if you can't think of anything better, if you've got lifelink on him. And you're going to get those nice little 2/2 flying griffins. It does give you a few more creatures, gives you something to block with, but it also means you've got another avenue in your attack, so you haven't got to basically overload on Zur and all go in one creature. Every enchantment I get goes on Zur. This gives you a bit of way of spreading it around, so you still get the bonuses going. Luminarch Ascension's here just for an early game bit. It's also a nice way of creating angels if you can get 4 tokens on it. Murder Investigation is something I'm trying out. Getting those 1/1 creatures could be useful, especially if you've got, say, a 5-power Zur, it gets killed somehow, you get 5 1/1 tokens. Not the worst deal in the world, but it's worth playing it. I'm just trying it to see what happens. Rune of Sustenance is card draw, also gives our creatures, the creature is enchanting, lifelink. Notice lifelink. Notice Spirit Link. It's not on there, so we'll stack. Skyclave Cleric's here. Basically, so I wanted a double-sided card. I found this one first. That's why I'm playing 36 lands. So I'm playing this as kind of like the 37th, or if I don't need it, it comes in as a 1/3 creature that gives us some life. So it's a reasonable blocker. Spirit Loop's here. Note it's another one that says whenever enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. But this also got a second ability. When Spirit Loop is put in a graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. So if it's enchanted to Zur, Zur gets killed, this will come back to your hand. It's quite a good way of dealing with things. Likewise, Spirit Mantle's quite nice. Gets +1/+1 and protection from creatures. Makes your creature, your Zur, unblockable for anything that flies and could block it, which is great. Had to play Saram. There's no point in playing this deck if we're going to be casting all these enchantments. Notice you do have to cast them. You don't get them, put them into play with Zur, but you are going to be casting enchantments. You are going to be doing things. You want to keep your card draw going. Likewise, Starfield Mystic's in here. Drops the cost of all our enchantment spells by 1, and when one of them goes to the graveyard, this gets bigger. I've seen this go up to 4/4, 5/5, 6/6, so it can work. Transcendent Envoy does the same thing without the card draw. Or the build. It's also a flyer, so it gives you another way around it. But aura spells you cast cost 1 less. So all these things up here, like Aura's Glitters, Murder Investigation, Rune of Sustenance, will go down to 1, which is quite nice. One thing you can search out is enchantment creatures. So I'll put Daxos in. It gives us some life when things come into play, but you can search them out. And even if you search it out, it becomes down your devotion at white. So at the moment, it comes in as a 2/2. Obviously, hopefully, we'll get that bigger as time goes on. Daybreak Coronet is ridiculous. Vigilance, first strike, lifelink, make it a +3. Have to have another. The only way you can do it though, you have to have another creature enchanted with an aura. So if you've got, say, I don't know, let's go back to Ethereal Armor on 0 already. Second turn, you can get this thing, and you're looking really good because your Ethereal Armor will give it +2/+2. You'll then have +5/+5 because of the Daybreak, and it'll just make Xur bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Staggering Insight is a simple one, +1/+1 and lifelink. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Fairly straightforward, nothing there you weren't expecting, I'd hope. Couple of different choices coming up now. I'll just mention Auramancer. Comes into play, return enchantments put in the graveyard to the hand. That's fine. However, I've put in Arrest, Bounding Gold, and Cage of Hands. I decided to try these out. I thought these might be a good idea. I've looked at some of the other decks that are kicking around. I have not seen these being played. What it does do, it gives you a way of dealing with a really big threat an opponent may have. You can just lock it out the game. They don't do anything. They just sit there. They can't attack, can't block, and activated abilities can't be activated. Bounding Gold, if you're playing against someone who's got vehicles in play, they can't use the creature you put Bounding Gold in to activate to crew those vehicles. And Cage of Hands, if the creature suddenly gets died, you can pay 2 mana and get it back to your hand. Seemed like a good idea to me. Likewise, Ghostly Prison's in here. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. You could put Propaganda in as well. I'd probably put both in, but I couldn't find a Propaganda for sale anywhere today, so that's the way it goes. Path of Bravery's in here because I figured gives us another way of gaining some life, and it makes our creatures bigger eventually. This is what I would probably, if I had Propaganda, Path of Bravery would be out, Propaganda would be in, just so we're clear. But that's my replacement card, which I think is slightly better than some of my other choices. Another flying creature that makes our enchantments and artifacts and enchantments cheaper by 1. So Starheim Courser's in here. Again, it's another target that you can put some of the enchantments on, spread it out a bit. Imperial Armor's an interesting one. I haven't actually put that much card draw in here, but there's a little bit, and you can just hold your hand back and attack real creatures, make your thing bigger that it's enchanted to, so on and so forth. So I thought we'd try it out. I've also played Faithbound Judge from Innistrad, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Crimson Vow. At the beginning of your upkeep, Faithbound Judge has 2 or fewer judgment counters on it. Put a judgment counter on it. As long as it has 3 or more judgment counters on it, it can attack, so it didn't have Defender. So that's quite good. Gives you a 4/4 flyer that's vigilant for 3. That's a Defender for a little while until you get some counters on it. But if it gets died, you get to do the Disturb trick. And then you can bring it back for 7 mana. It's not cheap. It's 7 mana. It's 2 white and 5. And it says, enchant player, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a judgment counter on Sinner's Judgment. Then if there are 3 or more judgment counters on it, enchanted player loses the game. If a Sinner's Judgment would be put into a graveyard from anywhere in exile instead. This is here because you do have people who just sit behind walls and defend and blow everything up. And they usually don't have a way of dealing with enchantments. This gives you a way to eliminate those people who are annoying you. If you're playing this in any other deck, obviously you want to play it with some proliferate ideas, get the counters on quicker. Not a bad plan. But I'm playing it in here mainly for the 4/4 side, but the second side, if I can disturb it, I'm not going to complain about it if I can finish my game off that way. Thassa's in here because it's an enchantment creature and I can fetch enchantments out that cost 3 or less. And you might as well have a way of making Xur unblockable. So, and a bit of scrying doesn't help. And at the end of the day, I thought it'd be good fun. Right, I have put Time Twister in this deck. I've said this in a few videos. I'm going to say it again now. Time Twister's here because I own one on MTGO. The cost of this deck, if you look at the link in the description below, will probably be $15,000. It is because of Time Twister. You do not need to play Time Twister. I'm lucky enough to have one on MTGO. This can be any other thing you want to put in. Emergency Power springs to mind. Even something really simple and low level like Mole Drifter could replace this. I am purely playing this because I have one. It is not something that will make this deck tick. If you have one in real life, I want you to be my friend. If you don't have one in real life, it's fine. Just replace it with something else. Still, would you be my friend? But whoever's got these in real life is probably really rich. And hello. Anyway, Dictate Graphics is in here as well. That little bit of card draw can help. Bastion of Remembrance I dropped in because I figured if gives us a creature, and when a creature control, they lose a life, we gain a life. It might be useful. I mean, with 18 creatures in the deck, permanent creatures, it's going to be a little bit hard, but it's worth a try. Brine Combiner, I wanted to try out. Is it going to work? I have no idea. But when it enters the battlefield, it becomes a target of an aura spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So it's another target we can put some of our enchantments on. I figured it was worth the gamble. Likewise, we can disturb it if it gets killed off. And the same thing applies. So it's worth a go. Epharia's Enlightenment's in here. And it's battlefield, put +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature. Notice it gives a counter. It doesn't give it +1/+1. Enchanted creature has flying, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may return it from your return it to your hand. So it's a nice little bouncy way of getting some +1/+1 counters around and giving something flying. Geist of St. Traft's in here. Might as well play this. It's got hexproof. It's going to make it very difficult for your opponents to deal with any of the enchantments you do drop on him or it. And obviously the angel's quite nice when you're attacking as well, so bear it in mind. Gift of Orzhov is just a way to give something flying and +1/+1 and lifelink. It's more to do with the flying side of it. Atheos, God of Passage, makes difficult decisions for your opponents. Obviously, when it comes into play, it's an enchantment, so we can search out with Zur. And when a creature you control dies, an opponent has to play 3 life. Otherwise, you put that card back in your hand. Otherwise, it goes to your graveyard. One way or the other, they might be in a little bit of pain. I've included Mortify, because I had a nice special one. It's destroy target creature or enchantment, instant, for 1 black, 1 white, and 1. This is the alternate artwork they did as a Magic Player Rewards program from many years ago. And finally, from the newest set, Streets of New Capenna, we've got Void Rend in here. One of each of the 3 main colours of our deck. This spell can't be countered. Destroy target non-land permanent. This will deal with anything that comes into play. Problematic planeswalker, problematic enchantment, creature, artifact. The only thing it won't do is take the lands out. So bear that in mind, but it's really good. So that's most of the deck that can be searched out by Zur. We're going to go on to the bits now that can't be searched out for Zur and talk about some of them. Smothering Tithe is in the deck. I've got a commander with white. As I said in the video from earlier this week, if you're playing white, you want to play Smothering Tithe. Obviously, the deck that I posted earlier in the week, a little bit different to this one, but it's still the same thing. The treasures can be useful. They will let you do additional bits and pieces on your turn, so bear that in mind. Obviously, you can't search this out with Zur because it costs 4 mana, but you're not going to be spending your mana on a lot, really, to cast them. You're just going to be spending it on the stuff we're now going to talk about, in theory. Ajani's Chosen is quite nice. This does trigger when you put an enchantment from Zur onto the battlefield, because it says whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white cat creature token. And you can move the enchantment from Zur to the cat if you want to. Wouldn't recommend it in the first instance, but might be helpful. Likewise, Archon of Sun's Grace does the same thing, but this gives you 2/2 flying Pegasus tokens, which is just as nice. It's also got lifelink, and having the 3 power does mean if it does any damage at all at the beginning of our end step, we'll get a Griffin. So lots of little flyers flying around. Day of Judgment, depopulate, control, blow the board up if we need to. Starheim Unleashed is in here. It's another one of the white cards I really like playing in decks. Mainly because it does give me something to do with my mana when I'm a bit stalled out or I need some extra flying bodies. This is probably the one card that I could take out of the deck and put Replenish in. I'm not going to at the moment. I know I've still got Replenish showing on the screen at the moment, but I'm not going to do it at the moment. I want to try this out and see what happens first. The other removal spell came from the Form of Damnation. Notice it's all destroy creatures. I haven't put any of the blue bounce spells in. I decided against it for this deck. Solemn Simulacrum, don't really need to say much. I guess you all know what it does by now. 4 mana, comes into play, find a land, put it into basic land, put it into play tapped. When it gets killed off, and it will get killed off as a 2/2, you get to go and draw a card. Nothing wrong with that. I thought it was a good plan. Last 4 cards in this whole deck. Starfield of Nyx. At the beginning of your upkeep, so it's 4 and 1 white mana, apologies. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As long as you control 5 or more enchantments, each other non-aura enchantment you control is a creature in addition to its other types and has a base power and base toughness each equal to its mana value. That's really confusing. Basically what it's saying is if I've got a load of stuff that isn't an aura, so things like Cleric's Class, Ajani's Welcome, Griffin Eerie, etc., Luminarch Ascension, anything that's not an aura, as long as I've got 5 or more of them in play, they become creatures. Is it worth it? Yes. For the recursion from the graveyard, most definitely. Is it going to end up being killed quite regularly? Yeah, probably. But it's got to be done, I'm afraid, in this sort of deck, so that's why it's here. Last 3 cards. Sun Titan is a no-brainer. It's very good with returning anything that costs 3 or less. Comes into play, returns one of your 3 or less enchantments, or one of your artifacts that costs that, or something. Or, you know, if worst comes to the worst, it can go and fetch up one of your search lands wherever I've put them. I had one in here somewhere. There it is, Marsh Flats. Go get Marsh Flats back out in my graveyard and put into play. I've got no issue with that. Or a land, you know. Any land that may have been milled or discarded or destroyed, you can go and fetch up with the Sun Titan. Bruna, Light of Albasters here as well. When it attacks or blocks, you may attach to any number of auras on the battlefield, and you may put onto the battlefield attached to any number of aura cards that could enchant it from your graveyard or hand. This becomes an instant, I must kill this card as soon as I see play. Hence why we have the Elixir of Immortality. And protection from creatures, stuff, and so on and so forth. I could have gone down the road and put something like, to be fair, it probably should be in here. I am going to add in a Swift Foot Boots, actually. While I'm sitting here thinking about it, something I've missed out. I am going to take out the... wherever I've put it. Where's it gone? What card are you talking about, Matt? Starnheim, there you go. I have Swift Foot Boots in. It's probably worth, now I think about it, having it to protect this and to protect Xur. So, slight change. See, live video. Make a change as you go along. But yeah, Bruna's really very good. Finally, I've got Approach of the Second Sun in here. This is really a backup win condition. You will have trouble sometimes against some decks casting enchantments, and it seemed to me that I needed some way of winning the game if everything got extracted or destroyed, or I couldn't find my Elixir of Immortality. So Approach of the Second Sun seemed like a good call to me. Just while I'm on the thing about Elixir of Immortality, if you've got a full grip of hands, cards in hand, keep this in hand as long as you can do. What you want to be able to do is put this into play and instantly activate it. I have seen people try and remove graveyards, kill the Elixir of Immortality if you haven't got 2 mana up. Make sure that when you're playing this, you've got 1 to cast it and the 2 to activate it. So it just makes it so much better, and it'll shuffle everything back in, including itself. So bear that in mind. Anyway, that was my really quick tour around Xur the Enchanter. That's how I'm going to play it on my stream. And as I said before, I stream on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night and a Sunday afternoon. So they're all UK times. Obviously, hopefully you can tell by my accent I'm a UK player. So it's usually around about 8 o'clock GMT, which is around about 3, I think, on the east coast of the States, if I've got my maths right, on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And then on a Sunday, it's probably breakfast time in the States when I start streaming about 2 o'clock. I think it's about 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, depending where you are. But anyway, please, let me know what you think of the deck in the comments below. Hit the follow button here on YouTube. If you really want to come and see me on Twitch, you've got the link below in the description. Come and follow me there as well. The more the merrier. If you come and follow me and let me know, I do have a Discord channel that I will let people join who are following me, where we do talk about Commander, we do talk about drafting, that's about it. Occasionally I talk a very little bit about Standard on there and some of the other formats, but it's mainly Commander and drafting, because that's mainly what the people who I talk to are interested in, so that's what we've done. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I'll see you all soon, but in the meantime, take care, enjoy the rest of your week, see you later, bye!